Hey folks, I'm JC Declos and welcome to Uncle Jim's Homestead. Hey folks, I'm just going to do a short segment here on antique wood burning ovens and the cleaning and caring of these old gems. Now this is an old Crawford, early 1900s when this one come out. It's been our primary cooking source during the cold months for about 10 years now. We've mastered the cooking technique and we're going to talk more about that on another segment. But for now, I'm going to talk about the cleaning and caring of them. I've spoken with a lot of people over the years that are on the road on the path to self-sufficiency, but sad to say that not a single one of them have an alternate cooking source in their home. And it really kind of blows my mind because the first thing that I want to focus on when I want to go off the grid or be independent would be to be able to cook my food, heat my home, and heat my water without being dependent on the grid or society. And these old wood burning ovens are a great way to achieve those three tasks. They're just great. They look good in a home, you know, if you're into that homesteading style. And they're just a wonderful thing to have. A lot of people have told me that maybe they bought an old house, they had an old stove like this in it, they tried to cook with it with really poor results and then they got rid of it. And a lot of those poor results come from being uneducated on how to properly operate these stoves. Now, it's much more complex than just a wood stove per se, where you got a firebox, you put wood in it, you control your damper in your draft to control your temperature. That part of the operation is pretty self-explanatory, but to use it as a cooking source is a whole nother whole bunch of stuff to learn there. So hopefully at the end of this segment some folks want to hold on to these old stoves, or if they have one in a barn, get it wire brushed, cleaned up, and put it in your home and put it to use because it's a great asset to a homestead. Now the Crawfords and Glenwoods and all of these old stoves, they pretty much all run on the same design, and it's actually kind of a design flaw. They have a lever that allows you to send the heat directly from the firebox up the chimney or send it around the oven to cook. Now I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, well, we have the fire going and the oven never really gets over much more than 150 degrees, and that's just because the lever is put in the wrong position and the heat is going straight up the chimney. Now what I'm talking about there is like here, I'll get a flashlight. Here's this little flapper, and when I open it like that, that heat is coming right out of this firebox directly up the chimney. When I close it, it's got to send the smoke down around the oven and then out, and that's going to heat your oven. But if your stove hasn't been maintained and kept clean, when you put this in the cooking position, it's going to start smoking, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, I had to learn this by trial and error because you buy these old stoves, they don't come with a manual, and so far I haven't had anybody out there be able to teach me how to operate it. So you learned over time. I learned over time anyway. All right, now the smoke, when you send the smoke and the heat around the oven, it's kind of a design flaw with these old stoves. It's an unnatural pathway for heat to go. Heat wants to rise. So when you close off that damper and the heat is going around, it's going to send that smoke around the oven, down the side, under it, and then out the back. And if you're cooking, like we use this every single day, to cook, it's our primary cooking source in the wintertime. And if you slow the smoke down like that, it's going to start adhering to things and it's going to clog up. Your smoke adheres to everything, and that's no surprise. If you're standing next to somebody that smokes cigarettes, you know they're a smoker. You get in their car, it'll make me gag. Everything stinks because the smoke from those cigarettes has adhered to everything. If you stand around a campfire and then you come home, you smell of the wood smoke. So what happens here is when I'm sending the heat around the flue, it starts to adhere to the steel. I'll get a flashlight here. It's adhering to the steel, and then it starts building up, and now the smoke is adhering to the soot, and it creates all these little fingers, and it clogs the stove right down. It slows the smoke down, so what happens to that is now the draft of the smoke is getting slowed down. So when you have a fire going in here, the hotter the fire is going, the more smoke it's producing, and well, the more heat it's producing, and it's trying to send that up the chimney, but it's getting slowed down, so it gets it backs up, and then it comes out of these cracks in between all the rings. I mean, these stoves aren't airtight. So that's where that whole smoking issue comes from. So to take care of that, we're going to clean out this old stove and get it ready to cook again. These old stoves came with some tools, and one of the tools for cleaning it out is similar to this, but it's got like a T, little piece of steel, where you can get in here and scrape this stuff. But the best way to do it is with a shop vac. This is the most effective way to get this stove cleaned out, and once it's cleaned out, it's just a wonderful source for cooking and heating. So I really don't know what they did in the old days. They must have had a brush in there and then scooped it out. It must have been a very dirty job. So I'm going to get in here and I'm going to vacuum out all of these little fingers here. I'm going to get that all cleaned out. That takes care of that part of the stove. Inside, there's a little flapper here. And that is pretty well caked up as well here. See, there's a lot of little fingers of smoke in there. So I'm going to get that that vacuum in there, and I'm going to send a pipe in here and here and here and clean all of that up. And that'll be drafting real good. I use the shop vac only to vacuum out the soot around the oven. I don't use it to clean the ashes out of the firebox. If you're going to use a vacuum, make sure your stove is cold. You don't want to accidentally vacuum up a few hot coals and then you put your shop vac back in the garage and later on you find your garage is burning down. So just make sure that if you use a vacuum, you just use it for the soot around the oven. You can clean out your firebox with a shovel and a bucket, but never use the vacuum to clean out the firebox. You just want to stay safe with it. Well, this old girl now is all cleaned out and ready for cooking. We'll be able to send that smoke and heat right around the oven. No problems whatsoever. She won't smoke on us. Hopefully this will help a few folks there. I know a lot of folks, I hear a lot of comments from people that they get these old stoves and then they get rid of them. And these are wonderful old stoves. The stove in this condition is now worth over $3,000. You'll find them in antique shops. This one's been fully restored. They're worth a lot of money. They're just a wonderful source. I know that for us, when we cook our meals, heat our water, and heat our home all with the same fire, it's very, very rewarding, and the novelty never wears off. They're just a really good asset to a self-sufficient homestead.